us. Then we could skip to just another subject. Do you know anything about the Occupy movement? Thank you very much. What do you know about it?
Well, my sister she works on Wall Street, and she lives in an apartment right above where the Occupy camp was on Wall Street in New York City. But also, I think two of the places that I've lived in the past year have been occupied also. So, I would affiliate myself as like supporting the movement, if you will.
You would or you wouldn't?
I would.
You would? Okay, and how is that?
I think that there's a real wealth distribution problem in the U.S. And like sitting in Denmark, I think that's like a perfect place to be talking about it. And you see that it can work. Like distributing funds can work in a country, and we have very little sense of that in the U.S. So I think we could be a little bit more like Danes.
Okay. As a matter of fact, I'm one to represent the Occupy movement in Copenhagen, and in some ways, no one can represent the Occupy movement because it's not an hierarchical structure. But anyway, but. What do you think? What are your thoughts about what's happening to the financial systems today? What are your thoughts about that? your deepest thoughts.
I think that people in very high positions have been entrusted with a lot of money and been really irresponsible with it. And that's sort of at the root of the issues in the U.S. and I'm sure elsewhere around the world. And that's kind of, I don't know, I'm not an econ major, so I can't speak too knowledgeably about the subject.
What do you feel can be done about it? The great lines. You're the voice of the street. We are all the voice of the street.
Sure. I would just like to see people, paying. If someone is making a lot of money, they should be paying fair taxes to that amount of money, and they should be, corporations need to be held responsible for when they've been irresponsible with money, and they, don't deserve, people deserve the bailouts when they're going through financial difficulties, not huge corporations, because the people are the ones who need it, and the corporations have shown that they're not responsible enough to use it.
Yeah, thank you. How do you relate to the term real democracy?
Real democracy. Real democracy.
Do you know the expression, the current use of that expression is part of the Occupy thing?
A real democracy is one where the people have a voice. And I think the Occupy movement feels as though that, it's the 2% or the 1% that has the voice in the U.S. and with money is coming too much power and too much hold over what's going on in the government, and that the voice needs to be given back to the other 98%, if you will. So I would agree with that. There's so much red tape in the U.S. and so much corporate control over what's happening in the government.
And who's controlling the media, for instance, right?
Sure, absolutely.
But how do you get an alternative voice through if you can't use the mainstream media? Do you have any idea of that?
Well, I think social media today, Facebook, YouTube,
everybody knows.
This has been that's in some ways how the Occupy movement and other movements around the world, like in Israel and other places, have exploded. Is that we now have this resource at our hands where the government can't control that. There's this is like a place where we can have a voice, and it's free, and it should be used. So that.
I just want to add, where are you from?
I am from southern New Hampshire near Boston, but I go to school in upstate New York, so not New York City.
Okay.
But we're from the U.S., both of us, and we're studying in Denmark.
Yeah. What are you studying in Denmark?
I'm studying psychology.
I study child development.
Okay. Child development here in Copenhagen?
Yeah, my program specifically works with kids with special needs.
Okay.
So just learning like the different resources that Denmark has and the different kinds of like schooling offered to them and things like that.
What's your opinion of about what you experience here?
It's been really eye-opening. I've never done any programs with kids with special needs, but I've been to a couple of schools around here with kids like with serious disabilities, but they have a lot to offer here in Denmark.
Okay. How is it compared to the US as you see it?
I would say it's pretty much equal. I think the government does a lot more for the kids with special needs here, as far as like funding a lot of their schooling and things like that. But as far as like the resources and the technology, I think we're pretty even leveled.
Yeah. And how is it? And how are the psychology studies?
So I study 3 things at my home university. So psychology is one of them there, and there's what I'm focused on here is positive psychology. So, you know, making people not just less depressed, but making people happier. And Denmark is supposedly the happiest country in the world. So good for you guys.
Happy, happy, happy all the time. Shock treatment, I'm doing fine. Give me shock treatment. Okay. That's just a commercial.
It's a little song time. Yeah, so I'm really enjoying it. I've learned a lot. But
okay. How long have you been here?
Since January 23rd.
Okay.
So 2 months.
Yeah.
since then.
Yeah, since then. And how long are you planning to stay here?
We're leaving in mid-May.
Yeah.
So about just short of 2 more months.
And how are your feelings in general or specifically about being right here, right now?
Love it here right now.
You
We're
love it?
living life right now.
Yeah.
We like had a good lunch, chatting.
The weather's beautiful
Yeah.
today, which
Yeah.
is nice.
Denmark weather is very like consistent. It's getting consistently better.
Yeah. I hope so. I hope so.
Even though we had like wonderful spring and then one day of grayness and coldness and then wonderful spring. That's
In the
it.
US we get like 80 degrees snowing, 75 rain. Like it's pretty consistent here.
It's pretty consistent. Well, thank you for participating in this,
Yes,
No
of course.
problem.
and welcome to Copenhagen.
Thank you.
Welcome.